Hi everyone, welcome back. I am continuing to read from Wine Comes in Six Packs. I hope that you have listened to the other stories. If not, you can find all of them on my YouTube channel or on my webpage. If you'd like to get caught back up, you can also hear all of my book readings from It'll Feel Better When It Quits Hurting as well that I have up. So anyway, I'm going to read from this book. Anyway, one last thing. If you haven't watched any of my other ones, I am dyslexic. I do my best. Sometimes my own words get away from me, and I will correct myself. So I hope you just give me a little bit of leeway there. So anyway, here we go. Hitting the reset button. On a cold, blustery February day, I found myself back in my hometown, broken, alone, and confused. In a daring escape, like something out of an old war movie, my mother came to Phoenix and liberated me from my husband. In the dead of night, we packed up 10 boxes and 2 suitcases, slipping away quiet as death to board a plane early the next morning. In Phoenix, where I had been living for 3 years, it was warm. Warm enough that just the day before I went swimming in the pool outside of our apartment with my 2 sons. Stepping off the plane in the Midwest, it was cold, snowing, and miserable. My boys had never seen snow in their young lives, and they were not impressed. Loudly crying their objections to the entire situation. Shivering and blue, my mother hustled us into the terminal, and after claiming our baggage, out to her awaiting car. It was a system shock for my sons, and even for me. I had grown up in the Midwest, but after so many years of dry desert heat, I was no more adapted to the cold than they were. Huddled down in the car, shivering in my thin coat, my mother blasted the heater to try and make us comfortable. But for most of the 2-hour drive back to Quincy, the boys cried with the unfamiliar feeling of cold, and I was too emotionally and physically exhausted to do much more than tremble in the front seat, both from the cold and the fear of the unknown that was staring back at me. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. My only thought had been to run away, to flee while there was still time. Now that I had successfully escaped my former life, I had no idea what to do with the rest of it. I was completely broke. I did not, literally, have a dime to my name. Nev had not allowed me to touch any of our money in over 2 years. I did not have access to any of our accounts, credit cards, or even loose change, ensuring that if I wanted or needed anything, I had to ask his permission to do so. I lost almost everything in my escape, taking only a few items we managed to salvage before leaving, packing into the 10 boxes my mother mailed before our flight to arrive sometime later that week, along with a few other miscellaneous items stuffed into 2 suitcases and taken with us on our flight, most of the space taken up with items I would need for the boys, and almost no space left over for me. It was dawning, and I was scared. I had no idea what I was going to do, how I was going to live, what to even do with myself. For 3 years now, I had gradually given up almost any kind of independent thought, and now, suddenly, I was going to have to go it completely alone, and I was terrified. What if I messed up? What if I made the wrong choice? How was I going to support myself and my 2 sons? What was I going to do? I had absolutely no idea. Staring out the window, watching the snow fall, shivering in the cold and fear, I closed my eyes and cried silently for my lost life, for the friends I'd left behind, for the loss of my marriage, and for everything that I had lost in my mad dash to get away. Staying with my mother and her newest husband, I quickly realized I needed to find somewhere else to live. Moving away from her home when I was 15, it was hard to be a child in her house again after so many years of being an adult. Not a well-functioning adult of late, but still an adult. I needed a place where I could start becoming what I had lost after years of dependence and abuse. With my mother, I would always be her child and treated as such. As much as she loved me and was trying to help me, it was the last thing I needed if I was ever to become a functional human being again. Although many of my friends from high school moved on to other places after graduation, my friend Leanne and her husband had returned to Quincy before my arrival. The local university had offered her a full scholarship to continue her education, and they happily moved back to town after accepting it. Initially staying in campus housing, they decided after a year of cramped living in the dorms to try and find a place off campus with more room for the two of them. Sharing the news with me that they were looking for an apartment, they asked if I would like to join them. With barely a hesitation, I jumped at the chance to get out of my mother's house. Joining them in their search, we eventually found a 2-bedroom apartment, not far from the university, at a price we could afford. Within 2 days of signing the lease, I moved from my mother's into a new sort of life. I still didn't have a job, and almost no way and no hope of getting any support from Nev. I was still broke and dependent. But living with Leanne and Vern, at least, gave me a chance to try and figure out what to do with my life. Putting my life through the filter of reality, I knew my future was bleak if I did nothing. My education had stopped at graduating from high school, and Nev hadn't let me keep a job for any length of time while I lived in Phoenix, making my work history spotty at best. And probably less than enticing for an employer. I needed to make changes to my life. I just didn't know where to begin. Yet. But moving in with Leanne and Vern gave me some breathing room to try, and that was more than I'd had before. It was time to begin again. All right, that's it for today. I will be reading more and finishing out the first chapter. So I hope that you guys will come back and listen to another story. And you can always buy the full book if you want to read it, if this has enticed you. So you can find links on my website. And take care, guys. I'll see you next Sunday. Bye-bye.